What episode are we on?
Episode 12, baby. What are you talking about?
Two.
Episode 12. Episode 12. We are live and in action. Most of these can play out a little bit longer this time. Nah, let's cut that off. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another episode of KYP, aka Know Your Personnel. I am Nathan Hawthorne. This is my co-host, Jared McEnroy. We are live here bringing you the greatest news in sports, the NFL draft. One of the most exciting things to happen in all of sports. We are here to break that down for you and much more. This is episode 12. Jared, what are we going to get into in episode 12?
I mean, I think you said it, draft stuff, and I think we can get right into it. We also did get a new Ryder Cup captain, so we'll touch on that really quick. And I have some, we're going to hold ourselves accountable here. We keep saying it, and we're going to continue to say it. I got to throw a hand up later, but for right now, let's just get into the draft summary. And I would call it one of the weirder drafts that we've seen in some recent time. And we kind of talked about these micro trades that were happening, but they didn't all make much sense. It wasn't really like jumping somebody to get someone you really want, like your first guy. Like to start, I mean, the Chiefs jumping two teams who don't need corners to go get Mansour, like that was weird. I don't know what they heard behind the scenes or what the chatter was going to be around. Maybe somebody else was planning on trading up, but I don't know. I mean, I'm all for, going and getting your guy, but then you have Dallas trade up one spot with the Dolphins, who I didn't think they were going to take Caleb Downs regardless. I mean, if you're going to take a tackle, those two positions couldn't be further apart of a plan. So it seemed like they had their guy in Proctor picked out, ready to go, and they were going to turn in the card. But apparently, the Cowboys wanted to give away free assets. But then they go and Dallas trades with the division rival. They trade with the Eagles at 20, and they give them Mekhi Lemon for free. Dallas's plan was very interesting, and even though they still ended up with great players, like these mini trades, and then just to go one step further, Buffalo trades out of the first round.
Like
They end up taking
times.
Yeah, and they in the second round end up taking an edge rusher when Keldrick Folk was there, which is, in my opinion, a better prospect in the first round, and they could have just made their pick. And then lastly, I mean, Miami jumping two spots again, same as the Chiefs. We jumped two spots at the back half of the first round. Two non-cornerback needy teams who don't end up taking cornerbacks, with plenty of them on the board to get our guy. And I get it. Again, you want to solidify that you are on the clock and you're getting the guy you want, but it's just weird. That's all I got. All I got in terms of a summary of the first round. What say you on that?
Just make your pick. That's what we talked about in the last episode. You got your pick. Unless you're trading back for a crazy number of assets, yeah, just make your pick. I thought a number of teams had some really solid drafts. I thought the Jets. This was the first time I've seen a Jets draft just be like, hey, we have a strategy. We're going to go best players available that we think we want on our team, character fit, and they executed that throughout the entire time. Thought the Giants did a great job of building their trenches. A couple of duplicate players, but now I love your pass rusher situation. Rams was interesting with that trade up pick for Ty Simpson. Man, yeah, kind of a weird draft, but I thought it made it really, really exciting.
It was awesome. The drama was there.
I really enjoyed it. Jordan Tyson ended up going top 10. I thought that was awesome. Carnell Tate at 4 was a shock. Cardinals, I love you guys. Phoenix, great city to hang out in, be around in. I'm not sure why we took Jeremiah Love. I know why we took him. I'm just not sure it was the right thing to do. Whatever. Here we are.
Well, that's a perfect segue into our first segment here. So let's get into, instead of just doing the plain old boring, winners and losers of the draft, let's do a fit or flop, is what we're going to call it. And we're just going to talk about some picks that were made and just the fit overall into a system, whether they were a good fit, and that's coaching staff, that's situation, that's everything, or if they were a flop. So I'll piggyback off just to start us off here. One of my first fits You were just talking about them, the Jets. I like what they're doing. And the reason why I like what they're doing this year is because they went and they took a tackle last year. They started to build the trenches and lay the foundation. And they've kind of been laying this foundation for years now. One of the biggest things when it comes to a young quarterback, which we're assuming that's what they're going to be taking next year in a very quarterback heavy draft, is they need to have weapons, and you went and got them some of the best weapons on the board. You go get Kenyon Sadiq, you trade back into the back half of the first round with the 49ers, I believe, and they end up getting Omar Cooper. They're planning for the future. Whoever they bring in next year is going to be coming into a far better situation than probably anticipated going into this draft. A lot of people thought maybe they'd go defense heavy, maybe they'd really start to build both sides of the trenches, and they made their pick at 2, and then they went and got a bunch of offense. So, I mean, I love it. David Bailey's a great pick. Again, with those top 5 pass rushers, they're really interchangeable. There's no wrong answer. I think if it wasn't one of those two, if it wasn't Bailey or Arvell Reese, it might have been the wrong answer, but they pick who they like better, and I think he's going to do great things there.
Yeah, I love that. Jets were aggressive, and I'll go ahead and tack onto this in terms of having a great fit. And again, I already said this. This is what it looks like when a team sets and executes against a strategy. That means with the 50th pick, the Jets taking D'Angelo Pons. I love D'Angelo Pons. I hate what everybody's talking about with, oh, he's not quite big enough. Have you seen this guy ball? Some guys just know ball, and they know how to play ball. They've got the instincts. You're talking about your Tyrann Matthews. You're talking about your Jalen Ramseys. You're talking about guys who just have that instinct and that feeling, and that's how the Jets want to play. That's what Aaron Glenn wants to do with his defense. Now, they had 0 interceptions last year, right? So now you're going to get yourself a guy who is going to be aggressive. He's versatile. Is he a little bit smaller? Yeah, but you can still play him in the slot because he's a physical tackler. And this is how you fix the problems on your defense, is you get yourself a guy on the back end to replace Sauce Gardner and still have that physical, I'm going to do my best to lock up your number 1 wide receiver. He's got that cockiness, that confidence that you need to have as an NFL corner. I absolutely love the pick. So the Jets have absolutely guaranteed themselves at least 3 interceptions next year with his pick of D'Angelo Pons. I absolutely love this fit.
They also got 2 first-rounders next year, which means you go, and one of them is the Colts. So we know the Colts their season this year could go any which way. So all of a sudden, and I know you really like, Jeremiah Smith rather. You don't want to have to spend that pick if you don't have to on a receiver. They did the front loading this year. Now you can go get the best quarterback next year, probably, and maybe the best cornerback as well. So they're really just freeing themselves up to make a lot of moves in the future and round it out. So, yep, put a bow on the Jets. Great job, guys. You're not doing too much great these days, but what a draft. Good for them, man. Things are looking up.
I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Aaron Glenn. I really thought he was going to be on the hottest hot seat, and they were going to can him already.
He still might be, though.
I know, no doubt he's on the hot seat after how poorly the team played last year. But I love that they had a committed strategy and they executed it and they're confident in it. That just tells me, hey, we had to get rid of some old things last year. We're bringing in the new officially this year. It was a tough transition. I love it. I love it.
I'm going to get into my next fit before I let you kind of take over on a couple of your fits here. But I got to give a hats off to the Panthers, and I think they picked a couple really good fits. Let me tell you why. Freeling, they end up going and building an even better line for Bryce Young, who is their future. I think they've kind of decided, at least for the next couple years. They didn't take the bait on Mekhi Lemon. And I think that was the biggest sign of maturity, is he was right there. They could use him, of course. Why not? I mean, you still have, Jalen Coker. You still have Tet McMillan. So, rounding out that room is important. But they go and get Chris Brazzell II from Tennessee in one of the later rounds. I think round 3 maybe. And he's the definition of the big body backside receiver, man. So I thought he was one of the steals of the draft. I think he's going to be solid for them. But with some of these younger teams, and when you're really trying to take that next step, obviously, they won the division. They played competitive last year toward the end of the year, and that division's wide open this year. So you go and you solidify, my O-line's going to get better. That's only going to make your run game better. And then you take the leap of faith on somebody else in the third round to kind of round out the receiver room. I've got to give hats off to the Panthers on the maturity there.
I love what you mentioned about not taking the bait on going for another weapon for Bryce Young. Your weapons are good enough. He proved that last year. Now, were some things a little bit inconsistent? Yeah, absolutely. But building in the trenches, that offensive line, you know that he needs to see his lanes a specific way because of his height. You know that you need to keep him well protected, whether that's pass protection from your offensive line or your running back. You've got the big body receivers. I love it. Exactly like you said, they didn't take the bait. I thought that was a really, really strong draft from the Carolina Panthers, and just shows that, with some new ownership, somebody new kind of running the head around things, it's looking better. I'm sorry, not new ownership, new head coach. New head coach. Yeah, I love it. I'm excited for him.
What do we got?
My next fit, and this pick I don't think will go viral, but it might be the smartest pick of the year, and that's Caden McDonald, picked by the Texans 36th overall. The Texans got arguably the best run defender in the draft. How do you think Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs and all these other guys had clean run fits? This guy is absorbing he's absorbing blocks, and he's also setting up his team for tackles. Now, you go to this Houston Texans defense. You've got Will Anderson Jr., you've got Daniil Hunter, you've got Al-Shaair, you've got Tuo Oto. I mean, you put him in the middle now. Now you're getting your physical run stopper that's going to soak up blocks. Who do you want to double team? On either side. And it just
good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Good luck. It's going to free up your linebackers to play behind. It's going to free up Daniil Hunter. It's going to free up Will Anderson Jr. Teams are going to have such a tough time dealing with this defense, and they already were having a tough time with it. This just adds another element. And again, you talk about fit in terms of a coaching staff. D'Amico Ryans, a real players coach. And I'm not sure if you saw Caden McDonald, his draft video. He was crying. He was in tears because of how emotional and amazing this moment was. That's a guy you want on your team, and that's the kind of coach, D'Amico Ryans, you want coaching that guy. This is terrifying. The best defense in the NFL just got better.
Yeah, and they did it in the second round too. Like they traded up, and they ended up getting Kalen Rutledge. So they're building the offensive line a little bit. So you use your first pick on that. And then you go to the opposite side. And again, we keep saying it, building the trenches. It's really important. And then, I think we all kind of know their secondary needs some help. But getting Kamari Ramsey from USC in the 5th round is another. People had him going way higher. He kind of kept falling, and that was kind of similar to a lot of the DBs in this draft that we thought were going to go a lot higher. For whatever reason, they weren't getting taken off the board. Snag him in the 5th also. Great draft. And again, it's about getting the dogs and getting the guys who really love the game, like you said. Those are going to be the difference makers, the ones who are giving that extra 110%.
And Nick Caserio, absolutely, like you said, just nailed this draft. Nick Caserio, he also looked at this and he said, hey, Caden McDonald played with Matt Patricia. You're getting a guy who's played an NFL-style defense, is getting coached up by a guy who's been an excellent defensive coordinator when in the league. I mean, that's just high IQ. That's ball knowledge. That's knowing your personnel to a T. Shout out Nick Caserio. We got to get like a KYP button. And when somebody just absolutely crushes it, we just got to smack that KYP button.
He knows his personnel. That's for sure. Matt Patricia, like you said.
Literally his job.
Great coordinator, bad head coach. Do you have any other fits you wanted to talk about?
No other fits, honestly. I got some bad fits. Some unfits, some shoes on the wrong foot.
I feel like we have one of the same ones, so let's just get it out of the way. Let's take the low-hanging fruit out of the way here. Jeremiah Love, man. And I want to set the table. I'm going to ask you a question. If they restarted the entire NFL right now, let's just say everybody's a free agent, everybody's picking. Do you think a single running back in the entire NFL would be picked in the first round? Everybody has to repick your entire roster. No quarterback, no anybody. Does anybody spend their first pick on a running back?
That's an excellent question. I think there might be
No.
one. Bijan Robinson is the only one I would consider, and he might go late first, depending on which quarterbacks and which pass rushers went already.
Exactly.
That's
so that's what I'm
only guy.
And that's the hardest maybe of all time. That's like you secure your pass rusher or QB and you grab him on the way back. I'm assuming snake draft here, but regardless. That's my exact point is with the Arizona Cardinals, they're almost at square one. Like you're looking at their team, you're looking at their best players are getting older. They don't have much of a young core, so it comes down to it's just the Arizona Cardinals committed malpractice by drafting a really talented, really good running back who's going to be great in this league and put him behind a bad O-line because that's a recipe for injuries. That's a recipe for waiting for a team to round out that will take years. And all of a sudden, it's going to come time to pay the guy, and your team's still not going to be there. So I don't get it. And you agree? All of these teams that we're talking about good fits, like even Tyson at 8, they went and got Kelvin Banks last year. They built their O-line a little bit, and now they're starting to take those risky picks and getting the weapons. We just talked about the Panthers, Jets. Just do it, man. Just start to build out the heart and the core of the team. Prepare for, again, you're going to probably take a quarterback in the next draft because I don't think you fully believe in Carson Beck. That was kind of a take one just to get one type of pick, but man, I don't know. Get into it.
Jeremiah Love, I don't think he can ever be a wrong fit in terms of his ability, but just the situation he went into it's just not right. And to me, when I look at this Cardinals draft, it looks like they tried to address every need they have. And did they have a lot of needs? Yes, but they didn't decide, hey, we are going to solve this right now with the draft and look at free agency to solve this. And that was the part to me that was concerning, is you took Jeremiah Love, okay, and then you took your guard, and then you took Carson Beck in the third round when there were still some good offensive line talent available. You could have gone 2 offensive line talent, and then you could have gone running back in the third. And again, you signed Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier was already upset. He said, I came and I signed here knowing and assuming that I was going to be the first running back. I was going to be RB1, James Conner. We were going to have this 1-2 punch. It wasn't an absolute need for them. And I get the whole concept of best player available, but you could have either traded down or, again, really leaned on solving the trenches. And yeah, Carson Beck in the third, he could have been there in the fifth. Am I wrong there?
It was a weird quarterback draft, man. He could have been.
I'm not sure what the reason for that was. You've already committed to Jacoby Brissett kind of as your guy for this year. All you needed was a capable backup. And if you're looking to draft somebody to kind of develop over maybe a year or two and then see if they have a chance, to me, it wouldn't have been Carson Beck in the third. It would have been Garrett Nussmeier in the first.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
Talk about aging like milk. We don't need to do all that, but
the jury's still out on that.
Yeah, we'll wait till next year.
Another excellent player who went to the wrong place. I just think it's a bad fit for him in particular. He's going to be listen, this guy is going to do more cardio than anybody in the entire NFL. And we got Tua his Tyreek Hill back. We did. The Atlanta Falcons took Zachariah Branch 79th overall. And again, I love the talent and I love the player. To me, he's the human joystick. But who's the head coach? Football terrorist Kevin Stefanski. What does Kevin Stefanski do? He runs the football 900 times a game with extra guards in the game, with extra tackles, 2 tight end sets, 2 running back sets, 11, 12, 13 personnel. More than most people in the league. And did he adjust his offense a little bit for having some more, spread-based quarterbacks over the last 2 years? Yeah, but you know what he wants to get into. That's why they have Tua on the roster. That's why they have Michael Penix still on the roster. Guys who aren't guys who are timing based, and they're going to absolutely run his system. You're going to have Zachariah Branch out there doing cardio. They want him to take the top off the defense for your deep shot. I love that. It's going to be real attractive in that play action. You're going to try and use him on some jet sweeps as a gadget guy. Okay, cool. But his role is going to be minimized, and I just don't think it's going to be the best fit for him. I think he's, again, an excellent player, but talk about a guy who has so much more potential on an offense being diminished by how the Falcons, I think, are going to run their offense with Kevin Stefanski. I love the pick. I just hate the fit.
Yeah. I don't really have too much for you on this one. Other than, obviously, I'm kind of upset that he didn't go to the Dolphins.
Dolphins had multiple chances.
I know. And here's what I'll say that I do agree with you, is there's teams that picked wide receiver in the same round, but also in the second round that I think he could have went above. Like the Commanders took a receiver. I think that's probably a better fit for him even. I agree, but also at the same time, Falcons are the Falcons. They don't move me, but football terrorists is crazy. That's crazy.
To me, Kevin Stefanski, and this was part of the issue, and again, he was capped, I think, by Kirk Cousins when he was in Minnesota, but he just runs it's the same offense. And it works when you have an excellent running back, when you had, oh my goodness, who am I forgetting in his prime? Dalvin Cook in his prime, when you have Nick Chubb in his prime, and you just run the ball over. It's great, but you wore both of those guys down to the point where they're going to have now injury-sustained careers. We already know running backs have maybe his offense has developed, maybe it hasn't. I don't like the fit for Zachariah Branch. I think he's got more talent than to be reduced to take the top off the defense, but we're not actually going to throw him the ball.
Or get underthrown.
Like you got two guys who
I've watched it.
You've got two guys who don't have cannons.
Anyways. Penix has a gun, man. Okay, we'll get into my next one. This is another flop for me. I wrote all this and I looked into this day of draft. I thought of it. This isn't because the Todd McShay clip that came out today, but what the Jags are doing is beyond me. And this is the pick that I have the issue with is this Nate Borkerker, tight end from A&M. I don't know how to pronounce his name particularly well, but you don't have a first round pick. You end up in the second round. Okay, fine. Pick 56. You don't have really assets to trade into the first round. Your options are pretty limited. But ultimately, your secondary is lacking. Pass rush is mediocre. Again, this is another division that is very wide open and you can return and make a real run at. And you pass up on names like Emmanuel McNeil-Warren from Toledo. I really like Davidson Igbinosun from Ohio State. I think that the Bills got a really good pick in him, but you pass up on him. And then I don't know too much about Bud Clark from TCU, but all I know is Seattle does not miss on secondary picks. Whether that was back with Pete Carroll or now with Mike McDonald, they never miss on secondary picks, so they missed by not taking Bud Clark. That's a name we'll hear next year. So there were so many better options. And to go tight end of all things, like just one of the lowest needs of any NFL system for that matter. I don't know what the Jags are doing. They're missing out on a time. This is the time. We're trying to prove that the Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence thing is going to work out. It's right now. You had a good year last year. You keep building off of it. You keep moving forward. This felt like they fell flat. It was just a terrible draft in my opinion. And ultimately, I don't know that their offseason really moved me either. So, interesting moves by the Jags. Big flop.
And I liked Gladstone last year. He made the big flashy move to trade up to get Travis Hunter. This year, to me, much like the Cardinals, it seemed like they just tried to get a little bit of everything. They didn't really focus on one side of the ball. Now, offense, you can argue you have enough weapons. With Brian Thomas Jr. hopefully coming back happier and healthier. Jacoby Myers was a great addition. Brenton Strange was a solid tight end for you last year. And I know I'm missing the third wide receiver. I think Parker Washington. Like that's a solid core. You can make a lot happen with that. Running backs, Travis Etienne's out the door. Are you trusting Bishal Tootin? Is he going to be your guy? Could there have been a second round running back you could have gone for? Anything like that? But again, to me, it just seemed like they weren't really committed to trying to solve anything. There wasn't a clear picture in, I don't know if I want to call this tight end a reach per se in the second round, but it kind of seemed like a reach. So I anticipate as Gladstone learns, he'll start to draft better. But yeah, not if I'm Liam Cohen, I'm not thrilled with what has changed for my team, which arguably isn't anything.
No. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Any other flops you got for me?
This is a flop, and a lot of people are going to disagree with me, I think, here. And this on paper looks like an absolutely perfect fit, but I'm telling you, I'm just not sure. And it's Shadarian Price at the 32nd pick going to the Seahawks. Everything on paper says we moved on from Kenneth Walker. We still have Charbonnet. Let's go at the back end of the draft or the back end of the first round, and we are going to get ourselves a running back to replace him. Okay, so you're saying Jadarian Price was the second best running back in the draft, essentially behind Jeremiah Love, his teammate. Okay, you go back and you watch the tape. A lot of their explosive plays because of that Notre Dame schedule. There's not really a lot of juice to it. It's big runs against Syracuse. It's big runs against USC that basically was a porous run defense. And it's not to say he's not incredibly talented. He's got a shiftiness and he's got excellent vision. But also part of the problem here is you don't have Clint Kubiak anymore. You've got Brian Fleury. He's now a first-time play caller. So you've got a new offense to install with a first-time play caller. And you want to know where he came from? The San Francisco 49ers. Previously a run game coordinator. Kyle Shanahan designs the plays and calls the plays over there. So you better hope you have a guy that's like Mike McDaniel stepping into that role. Again, coming from an offensive assistant side, not coming coordinator to coordinator. You better hope he's got some magic. Because again, outside of Jackson Smith and Jigba, that receiving core is not great. It went Jackson Smith and Jigba in a huge drop. So you didn't add another weapon for Sam Darnold in terms of a wide receiving weapon. You got a running back, which, again, I like, but you had Charbonnet already. You could kind of ride him for a full year if you wanted to. You could have found somebody else in free agency. I'm trying to remember who else they have to back him up right now. Oh, Emmanuel Wilson's who you picked up. So you picked up Emmanuel Wilson, who showed some flashes last year with the Packers when Josh Jacobs was out. So, okay, you've got Charbonnet and Wilson. Again, like you could probably make that work. I just don't think it was the right pick. I want this guy to work for them. But again, I would have felt more comfortable in that back end, getting myself another wide receiver weapon. That defense is already excellent. You know it, and you know it's always going to be excellent. I don't know. And I could be totally off here. I'm just worried that that pick could have been used for something else.
I don't think you're totally off, and I agree. We were even texting back and forth. I thought maybe like a Denzel Boston being there for him would be like, we're gonna snag him while we can, and that would be a great complement to that wide receiver room. But then you go and look at who would the next running back was that was taken. It was Kalen Black from Indiana, and that was until the third round. So that makes me think that Price would have been around for a bit, and even then, like if you stick around, you miss out on Price.
He was considered a reach by the Niners.
Exactly, and even then, like he's going to be a serviceable back. Again, we that fall off is pretty big though between those two players, but no, I think you're right. I think it was, but this is my only argument against being mad at it is, when you have these luxuries, man, who cares? You know, you can go make those picks. You just won the Super Bowl. You don't have many holes. You didn't lose many guys. Your secondary is probably the biggest need you said, like I said. And they think Bud Clark's the guy. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
You got Bud Clark. What else do you do? You've got Emanwari. You've got Witherspoon. You've got, there's another, the other
so
cat.
Cold.
The long-armed guy. Had a great rookie season and then kind of got washed. Anyways, yeah, your defense.
Woolen, he's gone.
Yeah, Tariq, he's gone?
Yes. Yep. I forget which team, but he's out the door.
Was it the Eagles? Honestly, I feel like that's something Howie Roseman would have done.
No, I think it is. Yeah, I think you're 100% right, actually.
Yeah. But yeah, you could, like, Avion Terrell was still there if you wanted to replace a corner. Again, I don't hate the pick. I just don't love the fit, and I've got a lot of question
Yeah.
marks with that offense because that offense was not good for a number of years. And you get blessed with Clint Kubiak, and he's out the door after 1 year. That's a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to learn the new offense. You went Ryan Grubb to Kubiak to Fleury. Like it's a lot of change really quick. You know the defense is going to be fine, but anyways,
We'll see how it goes for him.
we will see how it
All right.
goes.
Let's get into our next segment here. So we're going to do a QB temperature check. Obviously, we know the most important position in sports is going to be the QB. So we're going to talk about a couple quarterbacks we think are happy and a couple that are probably mad after how the front office handled the draft. So let's just start there. I got one for you. Are you ready?
Hey, rip it off. Let's see.
Nobody's happier in the NFL right now than Lamar Jackson.
That boy is stoked.
So first off, they go and get the best guard in the draft. They go and get, let me try and pronounce this correctly here. Olavavega Ione from Penn State. Can't pronounce his name for crap, but I'll tell you what. I watched this tape, and this dude's an absolute animal. He's got like Penei Sewell qualities, just like whipping all around the field, earholing guys, can block just straight up the biggest nose tackles in the game, even when he needs to move out to help. Like he's insane. So you go and get the best guard in the draft, which is a big need for them. Then you go and get him two weapons. You know, I've talked about this guy already. You know I like Jacoby Lane. You know I wanted him. Just something about the way he goes up and high points the ball. He's a big target. You can throw it anywhere, and he's going to make a play on it. And then very similarly, you get Elijah Surratt too. So that's two very similar guys to complement your speedy Zay Flowers. We've talked about just how many weapons they haven't surrounded him with over the years, and we were really critical of them last week, talking about how they needed to nail it, and I think they went out and did it. And not to mention, they go and get Zion Young from Missouri in the second round also, to go on the opposite side of Trey Hendrickson. So like you get a pass rusher, you get your offensive lineman, and you get two incredible weapons for Lamar Jackson. If I'm Lamar Jackson today, I'm grabbing a pina colada in the Bahamas. I don't know where they go in Baltimore to vacation, but man, you're stoked.
You are so excited if you're Lamar Jackson. You've already mentioned the weapons that they drafted, Jacoby Lane and Elijah Surratt. You have Zay Flowers. Tez Walker, I still think is great. He's going to come on. My only concern, your offensive coordinator. And by the way, this is guys how you guys should think about some fantasy football. Look at who the offensive coordinator is and how they play. It changes the dynamic for each and every single position on the field. It sounds really obvious, but a lot of you guys are just looking at names. You're looking at always wide receiver one. What team is he on? Is he on the Browns? I don't want him. Is he now on the Falcons? I don't want him because they ain't throwing the football. Side shot. The Bear. Lamar Jackson has a new offensive coordinator in Declan Doyle. He came from the Bears. I can't remember if he was the passing game or running game coordinator. But you're getting a guy from, I guess maybe Ben Johnson's kind of starting his own tree now, having come from, a few good years in Detroit. And then obviously last year with the Bears, things started to look better. But yeah, Declan Doyle. A lot of question marks out. Declan Doyle. And he's
what a name.
He's 29 years old. So either this is, hey, 5 out, we're throwing this rock, we're going crazy. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what to expect from Declan Doyle. It might take some time for this offense to get going, but goodness gracious, if you can find a way to get Derrick Henry activated still and get all these weapons activated, yeah, Lamar Jackson is mad stoked. Eric DeCosta, like we said, needed to nail this draft, and he did. You are stoked if you're Lamar Jackson.
Are you telling me that Declan's not an insurance salesman?
He might be. He might be part-time. You never know. And he's got that LinkedIn face for it. Anyways, the next
who's happy?
The happiest QB room I think in the world is whoever starts for the Browns. I'm not sure whether that's going to be Deshaun Watson or whether that's going to be Shedeur Sanders or whether that's going to be Dylan Gabriel. But you are stoked. Number one, you don't have Kevin
or Taylor Green.
Or Taylor Green. You are excited. You've got a new left tackle in Fano. You drafted Harold Fannin last year. and then you still have Isaiah Bond. You drafted Concepcion and Denzel Boston. This is kind of Ravens-esque in a sense of you got your trench guy, and then you got two excellent weapons for your quarterback. I love that. I love that. And I am so excited for them this year to just, see what they can do. I can't remember who the offensive coordinator is, but they hired the defensive cat. Oh, who's their head coach? Not Jesse Minter. He was from the Ravens. Why am I blanking on this guy's, the Browns' new head coach? I'm going to look at
I'm
this
also
real quick.
blanking because you're blanking, but while you look that up, just to reiterate,
Todd
two
Monken.
teams. Todd Monken, yeah, that's right.
Offensive guy, yeah.
Two teams that just historically have been terrible. The Jets and the Browns put on the most random masterclass. Hats off. Whoever starts in that room, it's got to be Shador. I would have a really hard time thinking it. They got to give the guy some confidence. They got to fully commit to him now. This is the time. We all keep harping on it. Next year's draft is going to be very quarterback heavy. Go see what he can do. Give him a full year. I don't even care. Dish Dylan Gabriel off to somebody. Have Taylor Green be your third emergency quarterback. And Deshaun Watson just rot on the sideline where you belong. Give Shador a full year with this team and see what he can do. And yeah, man, if I'm him, I'm stoked.
Hear me out. The Falcons need to trade for Dylan Gabriel. And they just need to run the market
full
on lefties. Need to run the market on lefties.
He's Walmart Tua, which is crazy because Tua is Walmart level quality. But
and real quick, I know you probably have another happy QB. I want to throw in one that's kind of at random here. This Tyler Shuck. If I'm Tyler Shuck, I'm kind of stoked. You survived this draft without them drafting another quarterback. Did they bring in Zach Wilson and Spencer Rattler still there? Yeah. But none of those guys appear to be threatening you, or at least it hasn't been communicated that there's going to be a real competition. Now, there might be. We don't know. And you got Jordan Tyson to pair with Chris Olave, provided he can stay healthy. You got a nice receiving and pass pro back in Travis Etienne. If I'm Tyler Shuck, I'm pretty happy. Kind of an under-the-radar deal here, but I think Kellen Moore is doing some great work in New Orleans right now.
No, I agree. And again, it's kind of like the inverse of what's happening in Cleveland. Sometimes the quarterback battle is actually the worst thing that can happen. Sometimes you need to give a guy a confidence and, like I said, just commit to a year because you know what Zach Wilson is. You know what Spencer Rattler is. You don't need to explore that any further. So give this guy a full year, get him another weapon, and then you can just plug and place the next guy if he doesn't work out into that QB room. So yeah, if I'm him, I'm stoked. That means that the team's committing to me at least for the next year to go prove I can ball.
Yeah. Speaking of uncommitted, who are the upset quarterbacks after this draft? Who is not stoked about this situation? Talk to me.
Justin Herbert's pissed, man. We're talking about just an uninspired offense, bad wide receiver room, bad running back, not bad, injured running back room. Amari Hampton and Keaton Mitchell are both very, very serviceable backs.
When healthy, they're just borderline superstars.
They're just not healthy. All this team is what ifs. But anyways, they pass up on KC. They pass up on Omar Cooper, and not even for a lineman. They didn't even get a lineman until pick 63. So it's not even like, we're passing up on the weapons to go get another lineman to help Justin Herbert out a little bit. No, they don't. So, and then they go and they get a receiver in round 4, thinking that that's going to help.
The Mississippi State guy, yeah.
Yes, he runs a 4.28 40. We've seen a lot of fast guys in this league that don't pan out. John Ross, for example. The dude is 5', $160 soaking wet. I don't want to hate on anybody. He could be a fantastic player. But these are the times where you have to go and get real playmakers, real game changers, not just a supporting cast. They don't have a wide receiver one. Don't tell me Ladd McConkey's a wide receiver one. He's a great wide receiver too. Maybe one of the better ones if he did have a star lined up on the other side of him. But they needed to go get somebody that's going to change the game for them, and that would have been Casey. Dude, this guy's going to be awesome. And again, we just talked about the Browns nailing it with getting him. I'm upset if I'm Justin Herbert.
He should be pissed. Royally pissed. Did that defense last year, one of the best defense in the leagues, arguably that carried this team into the playoffs last year with a broken down offensive line, a Justin Herbert who was not playing very well towards the end of the season, and just an injured cast? That defense was already in great shape, and I get that Jesse Minter left the building and now he's the head coach of the Ravens. But goodness gracious, why are you taking an edge player at the 22nd pick? Like, your defense wasn't what you needed to address in that exact moment. What you needed to address is a healthy wide receiver core and a wide receiver core for Justin Herbert that can consistently get open and catch footballs. Quentin Johnson looks like maybe he wasn't a bust to start the first couple games last year, and then it was back to the same old, same old. And part of that was some injuries to the offensive line and some injuries to your running back room. But still, you were relying on Keenan Allen, who was 974 years old at a certain point. They missed on the opportunity in that first round pick to get yourselves a weapon for Justin Herbert that he can just throw the ball to. Because Justin Herbert can sling the rock as good as anybody. He's a top 5 arm talent. There's not a lot of guys who can do what he can do with the football. Give him a chance to do it. And you brought in Mike McDaniels. Mike McDaniels wants to have some weapons to play with. Now, Omarion Hampton's probably going to have an excellent season. Watch out for him having a Devon A-Chain type season. Maybe he's not as fast, but in terms of touches, I like it. But yeah, I'm pretty upset if I'm Justin Herbert. And you know who else should be upset? Jordan Love. Jordan Love should be upset with this draft. And I get the conservative nature of the Green Bay Packers, and I absolutely understand that you took a wide receiver high last year in Matthew Golden, but that whole receiving core is injured all the time. Whether that's Jalen Reed or whether that's Christian Watson, those guys are good, but they're never available. Matthew Golden last year seemed checked out at times. He wasn't really activated. He had a couple of good games late in the season, but just not on the same page as the rest of the offense. Matt LaFleur tends to have a tough time calling games when it matters and always loses games that he absolutely should win. You've worn Josh Jacobs into the dirt over the last 2 years. You've given him so many touches, and it started to show towards the end of last year. So now you don't have a capable 1-2 punch because Emmanuel Wilson's out the door. You didn't draft a running back to help support Josh Jacobs. If I'm Jordan Love, I'm looking at this offense like, okay, we're going to go into this next year, and I'm going to have a patched up receiving core the entire year. I'm tired of running this back. Now, maybe he's got his money and it doesn't matter to him, but if I'm Jordan Love, I'm like, goodness gracious. Maybe it's not that I necessarily... And Tucker Kraft coming off a massive injury. Maybe I'm not upset about the weapon choice. Maybe I'm upset about the coaches. Maybe I'm upset about the draft in its entirety. But I'm just irritated. You're about to run back more of the same of what hasn't worked for the better part of the last 4 years now. I just don't get what the Green Bay Packers are doing.
Yeah, again, this is another case of not taking the momentum and running with it. And you hate to see it. You hate to see it in a quarterback that's honestly one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, which are few and far between. So if you're not going to go and really give them the best team to go and succeed with, I don't know what you're doing. But... And go ahead. Is there anything else you got on the Green Bay Packers?
I was just going to say, they took the big swing last year on bringing in Micah Parsons, and that was awesome. When that doesn't work out and you're not sure how he's going to come back from his injury, yeah, you certainly feel like you got to replace some bits and pieces on that D-line. And I get that. That was your need. Your corners weren't necessarily strong since you got rid of Jair Alexander. And I see what they did in the draft. They literally went and got corners and defensive line. And I respect that. And then you drafted a place kicker late. But you're telling me not one of your picks could have been something on that offensive side of the football? That just confuses me. And again, you can run back those weapons. That's not a problem. Yeah. I wouldn't do it if I wouldn't.
All right, let's get into our last
1, 2, 3, 4,
draft thing.
Five straight defensive picks. It just blows my mind.
Are there any teams that we think become better teams and real Super Bowl contenders based on this. It's really hard with the draft because we know none of these people are really going to change the game enough to really turn you into a Super Bowl contender, but maybe round out some rosters. Like the Seahawks last year, their best defensive player arguably was a rookie, and that was Eamon Worry. Yeah.
Right.
So a couple of these guys, maybe. I'm going to give you my first name, and this one's the most out of the box. The other two are pretty much layups. The Chicago Bears, man.
Yo.
I'm telling you, give him a real look. They go and get Dylan Thieneman. He's gonna be money for him. He was the right pick. I'm gonna start calling him Sack Harlow if he starts coming off the edge and really making some sacks. But Xavion Thomas out of LSU, I think, was a great pickup for them because that's another gadget guy.
I would like to add, if you draft or take a wide receiver from LSU, you are getting a polished NFL-ready wide receiver. It doesn't matter what round you take him in. You're getting a guy.
He was one of our favorites going into it, and he's very similar to the Zachariah Branch like mold of just like there's a 5-minute tape of him just cooking Mansour Delane over and over and over again, and he's the best cornerback in this draft, so he's got to be a steal for them. And then Malik Muhammad from Texas, I think, was another corner that was really underrated, and I wanted the Dolphins to grab in the back half of maybe round 3 with one of our picks. He's another great pickup. So I really like how they're shaping up. And then my other two are, like I said, layups. It's the Ravens draft was impeccable, and then the other one being the obvious one, the Chiefs, and that's all dependent on how Mahomes comes back. We know, but they did great things regardless of what they did with their first pick trading up. Mansour Delane was the guy. He is an absolute guy. He's going to step into that Trent McDuffie role and be a lockdown corner for them. Peter Woods out of Clemson on the back half. They build up their defensive line a little bit more to go alongside Chris Jones, and then Armason Thomas, not familiar with this game until draft day. Another guy. He's gonna go and get after the quarterback. He's an animal. He was doing it from multiple different ways. He started lining up inside a little bit, going all the way outside, and then lastly Kennedy from Oregon. That's another sleeper in the defensive back room that they're filling holes, man. And that's the whole point of this is these are going to be guys that when it gets into it, they're going to be surrounded by their vets. They're going to be molded into the ones who are going to make plays for them down the stretch.
Yeah. What I loved about the Kansas City draft is they got guys who are producers. They didn't look at guys who, I mean, obviously you got to have the measurables, but they went and got guys who on tape are very, very productive. Not necessarily, it's a little bit later in the draft. He's got a lot of tools. He's only played 2 years of football in his life, but we'll take that. They went out and they got absolute guys, and they got the steal of the draft.
I thought that's what you were going to say. I thought you were going to say they went out and got Garrett Nussmeier.
They went out and got you got it. I do want to understand what exactly happened with Nussmeier. From what I heard, it had something to do with his physicals and some of those injuries he had being a little bit worse than maybe things were initially indicated. Whatever the result may be, I'll take a hand up accountability. I was, no, not yet.
No, give it a year.
Too early to say.
Give it a year.
We talked about the Houston Texans already. They had an excellent draft, building a number of pieces. I think maybe CJ Stroud could be a little bit upset that they didn't go out and get him another weapon, but you were able to bolster your run game in free agency with that David Montgomery addition. So I think that's awesome. But yeah, Tank Dell coming off of injury, Nico Collins, that hamstring, he's playing through injury a lot. You have a new first-time play caller in Nick Caley, who comes from the Sean McVay system. Again, always got to be cognizant of taking guys that come from McVay and Shanahan, thinking that those are the guys that have the sauce. Anyways, Texans, again, great draft. Seattle Seahawks plug some holes. I was almost going to tip the cap to Buffalo, but I really don't want to. I understood that they traded down and out, and that was really, really weird. But their team's going to be good enough. They what they went and did is said, hey, we're going to maybe go spend some money on DJ Moore if we have to re-sign him. We're already paying $1 billion to Josh Allen. So they're just paying the minimum amount that they can to that defense, and hopefully it comes through. And then Dallas. I got to tip the cap to Dallas. I thought Dallas had a great draft as well.
Yeah.
Getting Caleb Downs, getting Malachi Lawrence, Drew Shelton, I thought, to bolster that offensive line. These Big Ten, your Nebraska, your Penn States, those offensive linemen, they're mean. I can't remember Ione, like those guys are just actually mean. They don't want to just block you. They physically want to put you in the dirt. Again, so they address that defense with some edge rushers and some safeties. Offense is going to be killer next year. I'm impressed with it.
Same. You know how I feel. I think the Cowboys are going to take the division. Now, again, we already said it. We don't need to beat a dead horse here. They made some questionable calls. They could have had Akeem Messidor if they didn't trade out of that 20 spot and give them Mekhi Lemon for no reason, but I digress. That's enough of the draft stuff. I think we nailed it. I think we wrapped it up there. That's some good stuff. Let's talk about the Ryder Cup really quick. The captain pick is out now. Jim Furyk, Ryder Cup captain for the United States of America. Here's what I'm going to say. He's been a captain before. It was uninspiring, terrible effort. We didn't have a shot from the jump. It felt like a pick where we felt trapped because the Tiger Woods situation happened and ultimately we didn't have a direction to go to, so we just chose one and we're riding with it. We're choosing somebody who has been a captain before instead of a first timer because I feel like that's easier to explain if it doesn't go well. And I think we're throwing this guy to the wolves, man. I think he's a great knowledge of the game. We know this. We know he knows the players. He knows his personnel. But when it comes to leadership, this is going to have to be a team effort. It's going to need to be your Scotty Scheffler. It's going to need to be, if Bryson picks up his play again, it's going to need to be your Bryson. It's just, those are hard guys for people to rally behind because they're playing against them week in and week out. So they don't look at them the same light that we do as fans. So your captaincy is very important, and getting behind those guys, that's very, very important. And can't say I love it, can't say I hate it. I don't know what they're doing ultimately. I don't understand the direction. This is an interesting one.
I don't think we have the horses to win the Ryder Cup this year. I think the only way we were going to win it is everyone felt so inspired by Tiger Woods that maybe we could go out and win. We're on international waters, okay? It is not a safe zone, and the Europeans are killing it right now. You want to go play up against Matt Fitzpatrick, top 3 in the world. You want to go play against Rory, I think number 2 in the world. Shane Lowry always shows up. Like, they have a better team. Jim Furyk, I think, like you said, he's just thrown to the wolves. We ain't winning it this year. Chris Gotterup, I love you. What are you doing for me?
We also don't even take into consideration, it's not just the environment, it's the course as well. This is links golf. This is not your average U.S. course. Like, we're going into their territory, a game they played since they were 5 years old. In courses and setups.
Wee little boys.
Just a wee little boy. Man, good luck. And
Good luck,
I'm telling
Jim.
you.
Good luck,
And I'll
Jimbo.
never give up. I'll never give up on us. I think we'll put together a good roster, and I think ultimately it'll be a fight. But we'll get more into that as the year goes on, of course. A lot of tournaments to be played, a lot of people to show whether they're going to be the guy or not. So we'll see how it shapes up. But this first step is not a great step.
It's not a great step, and I'll tell you what. Sometimes we make missteps. And from what I understand is you would like to own up to a misstep of yours. And I wanted to give you the floor to do that, have your hand up, and take some accountability.
Gonna have some hand up accountability here. It's okay. Here we go. It was, and again, I've been given some grace. I've been a diehard Blazer fan my entire life, of course. Of course, there's some bias in me, and I think it may have clouded some of my judgment. I was never serious. I never really thought we had a chance to beat the Spurs. But I still don't think I was fully wrong. We've been competitive in all of these games.
We've given them fits.
We did exactly that. But I think where I was blinded was with our potential rather than what the Spurs actually are. We're a year away. If we're talking, and maybe 2 years away, depending on what moves we make in the offseason. But ultimately, the Spurs at their best are far and away better than the Blazers are right at this moment. If they're both at their absolute best, they're far and away coming away with a win in any situation. I talked a lot of mess about Wemby's plus minus, and he was plus 28 last game. So
He heard you.
He heard me. He sure heard me. Plus 28, man. Our help side defense was terrible. We started off flying around. The energy just quickly left, and it never left on defense, but on offense, it was really starting to wear on us. We started missing shots. We couldn't keep up with them. That's why their runs were really clicking. They had a lot of missed shots within their runs too. So that's a piece of this that is kind of overlooked is, yes, they did come back from a large victory, but that's not just because we weren't playing good defense. It's because we were playing really atrocious offense. There was a lot of heaving up shots that not even getting one pass off, like just coming down the court, a Scoot 3, a Drew 3, and of course they've been our heroes, but the offense just doesn't look great. And this is the time where I'm like, I don't know if giving another year of Thiago's the play, if there's a real experienced veteran coach that we can go and get, because I do like this team a lot. I like the core of this team, and I like the assets we have to turn things around and maybe get a star. And I think about what we can do to become better next year, and we need shooting. We need somebody to space the floor. Dame's obviously going to be that, but at the same time, we can't rely on only him. We need somebody else to keep everyone honest. We also just need a bullier. We need an enforcer. I don't know why, but you look at some of these series, and sometimes they're game changers, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're Dylan Brooks and they're just loud. But I'll tell you what, you throw him in a Blazer jersey and I'll be his number one fan. Just something like you watch Dylan Harper and him get pissed off after Scoot was talking crap to him, and those are the guys you need to like. They turn it on when things get heated in the playoffs. So yeah, I don't know, man, but hand up, we're not as good as the Spurs. We're probably going to lose tonight. The series might be over. I'll be back on this bandwagon next episode, by the way. If we do win tonight, we're back. But
I'll also raise my hand here. Good. I'll raise my hand here because I said Steph Castle and Dylan Harper were going to crumble in the big minutes. Right? They're rookies that were going to run out of gas. No, those guys are dogs. De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper, and Steph Castle just running downhill at you all game because Wemby can pull your center out. You can't just not guard Wemby outside. Luke Cornett, yeah, maybe not. But Wemby, you got to follow him out there. And that lane gets open, and those guys penetrate so deep. Also, tip of the cap to Mitch Johnson. Whatever adjustment he is making in the second half, whatever on that defensive side, it is absolutely killing us. Our offense goes from hero to zero for the Blazers. So it is what it is. But speaking of which, this game has just tipped off, and I think it's time for us to go.
Yeah, well, last thing, Mitch Johnson's a great coach, man. This dude's awesome. Like, he's gonna be around for a while. And when you get to sit under Popovich for that long, you get big things. And then the other thing, yeah, this Wembanyama guy is really good. But who's got the cardio to keep up with this team? I don't know who it's going to be. If I'm every other playoff team in the West and probably the team that's going to be the favorite in the East, I'm getting everybody on the treadmill. We're running suicides. We're getting things done.
You got to be ready. Yeah.
All right, let's go watch the game.
Let's go watch the game. Ladies and gentlemen, this was episode 12 of KYP, a.k.a. Know Your Personnel. I'm Nathan Hawthorne. This is once again my co-host, Jared McEnroy, bringing you the truth of the NFL draft. Thank you for being here, and we will catch you guys on the next one.